In a vast universe, where stars are merely solitary points of light, against a silent black backdrop, an unexplored region of space has been erased from all maps. An invisible land, stretching 12 light-years, lies beyond the control of all civilizations, with even the most advanced technologies unable to penetrate. A place where every spacecraft that has attempted to approach has disappeared without a trace. Is this a natural phenomenon, or a secret that humanity has kept hidden? When Zeith Bar, a space surveyor, decides to investigate the truth, he not only faces unseen dangers, but also a bigger question: can we confront things beyond human understanding? A journey full of science, mystery, and peril awaits. You won't be able to stop watching. Subscribe to the channel now to follow this thrilling and scientific journey of space exploration. You won't want to miss the truth we are about to reveal. The vastness of space, with its shining stars and distant planets, has always captivated the curiosity of advanced species. Yet, among all these encounters, there is one planet that the galactic species rarely notice: Earth. Humankind, originating from a planet they call the Death World, has never been considered important within the cosmic community. Extraterrestrial beings, especially the Galactic Alliance, view humans as primitive, unsophisticated creatures, unworthy of engaging in meaningful discussions. The Galactic Alliance, an organization made up of advanced civilizations, operates under one principle: development is the sole measure of existence in the universe. Every species must prove its worth to join the galactic community by advancing technologically and maintaining a refined civilization. By this standard, humanity is seen as a weak point in the universe, a species not yet powerful or sophisticated enough to join the alliance. For species from lush, peaceful planets like humans, life cannot be so simple. Surrounded by powerful forces, humanity has survived not through brute strength, but through resilience and superior adaptability. However, these traits have never been recognized by the Alliance. Sarah Chen faces the contempt of the Alliance. Sarah Chen, humanity's representative in the Galactic Alliance, stands firm amidst the cold stares and contempt from the representatives of other species. She stands before a magnificent meeting room with soaring crystal arches and floating platforms. The space around her shines with a brilliance designed to showcase the strength and advancement of the Alliance's civilizations. But to Chen, it is all just an empty spectacle. She had grown up in the underwater cities of New Shanghai, one of humanity's most developed cities, where humans had learned to survive and thrive under harsh conditions. The floating platforms in the meeting room, the light streaming through the crystals, they are just power games to her. They don't faze her. They don't change her resolve. She knows humanity holds a strength the Alliance has never understood. We cannot accept humanity's membership into the Alliance. High Counselor Vex Thor, a translucent being, speaks up. His tentacles move gently, but his eyes are filled with disdain. You lack the necessary sophistication. Humanity has not demonstrated sufficient advancement. Sarah Chen does not react immediately. She has been prepared for this moment for a long time. Despite sensing the heaviness in the air, the disdain, and the contempt from the other members of the Alliance, she remains calm. She is here to fight for humanity, to defend their place in the universe. She smiles, but the smile carries no softness. We understand, High Counselor. Earth will, of course, maintain its provisional membership status within the Alliance. However, we only wish to contribute positively to the galactic community. Chen's response causes the atmosphere in the room to tighten. The extraterrestrial representatives exchange glances, some shrugging as if they deemed it an acceptable apology from a lesser species. But none of them realize that Chen's words are not an act of submission. They are a strategy. Because humanity, in its simplicity, had surpassed the Alliance in a way they had never imagined, through covert development. The rejection and the Alliance's decision. After the meeting, the Galactic Alliance officially declared that humanity does not yet meet the criteria to join. They stated that humans must continue to prove themselves to the Alliance, that they are not sufficiently advanced in terms of technology, or social progress. They would not grant humanity the right to participate in any significant galactic discussions. But what no one in the Alliance knew was that this very contempt would become the driving force behind humanity's development of technologies the Alliance could not fathom. And soon, the Alliance's decisions would be overshadowed by a strategy they had never foreseen. Humanity prepares in secret. Since the meeting with the Galactic Alliance concluded, Sarah Chen has continually reflected on what transpired. While the rejection from the Alliance didn't surprise her, it made one thing clearer than ever. Humanity had been preparing for too long, and the time to act had come. What the Alliance failed to realize was that humanity did not simply exist in a death world. They had transcended it, building a hidden civilization, utilizing technologies that the Alliance could not even imagine. Beneath the ocean, secret research facilities were being established. In the underwater cities of New Shanghai, where humanity had learned to survive and thrive under extreme conditions, scientific and engineering teams were quietly making breakthroughs the galactic world had never seen. The spaceships were no longer crude machines of warfare. They were hyper-advanced vessels capable of cloaking and maneuvering through space in ways the Alliance could never have dreamed of. One of the key technologies being developed was the quantum drive. This technology not only allowed human spacecraft to travel beyond the boundaries of space, but could also make them invisible to the Alliance's sensors. These technologies were kept entirely secret, operating in the shadows, allowing the Alliance to continue viewing humanity as a primitive and inferior species. In the eyes of the Alliance, humanity was insignificant, but in reality, they had already surpassed the Alliance in the technological race. Secrecy was further protected by underground facilities in heavily monitored areas. In laboratories deep beneath the ocean, human scientists like Dr. Marcus Rivera tirelessly researched and developed space technologies that no alien species could detect. One of the most remarkable achievements was the quantum probability fields, a system that could alter reality and camouflage humanity's activities, preventing the Alliance from ever knowing what was truly happening beneath the surface. Humanity pretends to be weak. While the Alliance had made the decision to deny humanity's membership, Sarah Chen and Earth Command continued to execute their strategy: silence, adhering to the regulations set by the Alliance. But in the darkness, humanity was still quietly advancing their plans. They never rebelled loudly, but maintained the weak facade, seeming to submit to the rules. There was no rebellion, no public opposition. Humanity continued to comply with the restrictions imposed by the Alliance, accepting terms regarding resource extraction and technology control. Every demand from the Alliance was met, and life on Earth seemed to carry on normally. To the alien species, it was a sign of weakness, of submission. But behind it all, humanity was silently preparing. Stealth ships and covert technology. At an underground facility on Mars, a team of aerospace engineers was testing a new type of spacecraft, a vessel that the Alliance could not even detect. These ships utilized quantum cloaking technology, allowing them to disappear from the Alliance's sensors, as if they had never existed in space. When the Alliance attempted to scan, they only saw what they wanted to see: normal ships. Nothing special, nothing suspicious. Sarah Chen monitored these tests from afar, a slight smile on her face. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Humanity didn't need to strike first. They only needed the Alliance to believe they were a weak species, one that needed to be taught. While the Alliance believed humanity was still beneath their expectations, in reality, humanity had mastered technologies that even the most advanced civilizations could not imagine. The Alliance had made a mistake, and they were unaware that they were being led by what they considered inferior and backward. Sarah Chen and the conversation with Earth Command. In a dimly lit room, Sarah Chen sat before a screen, connecting online with Earth Command. Data streams about the ongoing tests were constantly flowing into her system. Phase 1 is complete, Sarah Chen reported through the quantum encryption link. They've rejected us, as expected. Now we proceed with our quiet compliance. Good work, Sarah, came the voice of Fleet Admiral Jackson. Keep going. But remember, we're on the right track. We need them to think we're weak, but we need to prepare even better." Sarah nodded, concealing any emotion. "Indeed, the Alliance doesn't know we've surpassed them in many ways." Under the dim glow of the screen, Sarah looked at the next stream of data. Reports on cloaking spacecraft, the quantum drive trials, and the capabilities of quantum probability fields. Everything was progressing rapidly. "We will surprise them," Sarah murmured to herself, clenching her fist. She knew that soon humanity would step into the cosmos with a power and intelligence the Alliance would never have expected. The Alliance increases pressure. Although humanity continued to hold their resolve with silence, the Galactic Alliance never ceased their investigations into the suspicions surrounding humanity. After denying humanity's membership, they decided not to let humans expand freely and began to impose stricter controls than ever before. The Alliance believed they had to act before humanity could truly evolve into a significant threat. The Alliance relentlessly monitored every move of humanity, tracking resource extraction activities and searching for any unusual signs in the systems under their jurisdiction. Surveillance ships patrolled space near Earth, and surveillance satellites were placed everywhere, while covert exploration teams neared humanity's research facilities. One of the most tense checks took place when the Alliance decided to tighten resource extraction regulations in the region and began conducting space surveys within humanity's solar system. All human spacecraft had to undergo inspection to ensure that no forbidden technology or potential threat existed against the Alliance's rules. However, the Alliance could never have anticipated that, while they were tightening their grip, humanity had become far too skilled at hiding their technology. They used cloaking methods to conceal their spacecraft, including quantum cloaking systems and stealth technologies that could make their ships vanish entirely from the Alliance's radar. Humanity responds quietly. While the Alliance believed they were controlling the situation, humanity had acted with remarkable subtlety. Not a single move from the Alliance could shake their strategy of silence. Humanity continued to comply with the rules set by the Alliance, as if fully accepting the surveillance. But in secret, they were developing breakthrough technologies the Alliance couldn't comprehend. Sarah Chen received orders from Earth Command to maintain the unremarkable appearance. All of humanity's actions remained within the scope of the Alliance's regulations. No resource extraction beyond the plan, no export of advanced technology, and absolutely no signs of military violations. However, in silence, they continued to progress. Humanity's advanced spacecraft, equipped with new technologies like the quantum probability field and quantum drive, began performing exploration and reconnaissance missions, but all were hidden under a deceptive exterior. Research facilities appeared to focus only on simple resource extraction, but in reality, they were fronts for developing sophisticated space technologies that the Alliance could not detect. The second hunt. The Alliance discovers strange signs. One foggy morning, in the Galactic Council chamber, a member of the Council, Counselor Zira, a being with glowing eyes and skin that blended colors like crystals, spoke up, reporting a new discovery. "We've detected a strange pattern in humanity's resource extraction activities. Their ships seem to be avoiding certain areas in space." All eyes in the room turned toward Zira. It's not that they didn't find anything, it's that they've chosen to avoid areas that appear to have no obvious resource value. Other representatives in the room immediately became alert, and a tense atmosphere enveloped the chamber. The Alliance began asking, could humanity be hiding something? Despite several theories being proposed, no one could explain clearly why humanity would avoid areas that appeared to have no apparent value. A sense of suspicion began to arise, and this would mark the beginning of even stricter inspections. Chen and humanity's secret moves. While the Alliance tightened its inspections, Sarah Chen remained steadfast in her strategy. She continued to maintain a calm demeanor, accepting all requests from the Alliance with no resistance. To the Alliance, this was simply confirmation that humanity was indeed weak and in need of discipline. But in truth, in the darkness, Sarah Chen and her teams had completed the final preparations. The quantum grid system they had developed was now ready. It was an ultra-advanced technology network capable of altering reality, allowing humanity to camouflage their activities and prevent the Alliance from accessing critical facilities. The spacecraft, research stations, and technology hubs could now fade away from all of the Alliance's surveillance systems. Humanity could move easily through space without leaving any trace, which not only made the Alliance suspicious, but also created an underlying sense of unease about what humanity was truly hiding. The Alliance decides to attack. After a series of investigations and space surveys, the Galactic Alliance gradually realized that things were not as simple as they had assumed. The strange signs of human behavior could no longer be ignored. The areas of resources that were avoided, the spacecraft that appeared and disappeared inexplicably, all raised significant doubts within the Galactic Council. The Alliance decided they could no longer wait. They had been indifferent to humanity for far too long, and now was the time to act. The decision was made. An official investigation would be conducted immediately. A team of Alliance explorers was dispatched to thoroughly inspect the uncertain areas humanity had avoided. The Alliance's spacecraft set off confidently, believing they would easily uncover the hidden truth. They had no idea that humanity had already prepared for this confrontation. The Alliance's assumption that they would easily detect humanity's secret technologies was a grave mistake. Humanity starts to turn the tide. While the Alliance prepared to launch their attack, humanity did not just sit and wait. Sarah Chen received intelligence about the Alliance's movements. She was not surprised. They had anticipated that one day the Alliance would conduct such rigorous surveys. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for. Sarah looked at the screen, where a map of the areas the Alliance planned to inspect was displayed, and smiled. She did not give the order to attack. She knew that humanity would never choose the path of violence first, but when the Alliance's investigation began, that would be the moment everything would change. The Alliance doesn't understand, she whispered to herself. We don't need to fight the way they think we will. We have a far more powerful weapon, our intelligence and understanding of the universe that they can never keep up with. The power of the quantum grid. As the Alliance's ships began to venture deep into humanity's space territories, they did not realize that at that very moment, humanity was activating the quantum grid, a technological network that had been built long ago. Designed to alter the fundamental elements of space and time, the quantum grid could create an illusion that made it impossible for the Alliance to see what was truly happening. While the Alliance believed they were inspecting normal resource facilities, they were unaware that they were being led into traps designed to make them lose track and neutralize their sensors. The Alliance's spacecraft, despite being equipped with advanced sensors, could only see what they were meant to see, false traces that humanity had created to conceal the real activities. Sarah Chen showed no sign of worry. Everything was going according to plan. She knew the Alliance would not be able to touch what humanity had created, technologies so advanced that the Alliance could not comprehend them. The time had come for humanity to reveal its true strength. The Alliance discovers strange signs. As the Alliance began its investigation and sent their spacecraft into the areas humanity had avoided, a great surprise occurred. The Alliance's monitoring systems could not detect any spacecraft or facilities. The ordinary technologies the Alliance had been searching for had vanished. The Alliance ships seemed unable to reach their intended targets. They could not understand this anomaly. Despite their close surveillance, humanity's spacecraft had disappeared into space, as if they had never existed. The Alliance had been cautious, but could not explain how humanity could conceal themselves so perfectly. The atmosphere in the Galactic Council chamber grew tense. They no longer knew what to do. The Alliance, with all its technology and experience, had been outsmarted by humanity. Sarah Chen's final decision. At this point, Sarah Chen received crucial information from Earth Command. The Alliance's investigation had gone too far. Humanity could no longer allow the Alliance to continue violating their territory. A decision was made. Humanity would not only defend itself, but would begin the first counterattack. In an emergency meeting at Earth Command, Sarah Chen stood straight, staring at the report from the Alliance. She was no longer patient. The Alliance's doubts and inspections had crossed the line. "It's time to end this game," she said without hesitation. "They will know we are not the weak species they think we are. They will understand why Earth was called the Death World." The order was given, and immediately, humanity's spacecraft began to move out of the shadows. The quantum grid system was activated. The Alliance's spacecraft could no longer detect humanity. Humanity strikes with advanced technology. As the quantum grid began to take effect, the shift in the atmosphere of the universe was inevitable. The Alliance's spacecraft were incapacitated, no longer able to operate as they once did. Their sensor systems completely failed to detect any activity from humanity. The areas of space they had previously considered blind spots now became extremely complex and difficult to control. Sarah Chen stood in the command room of Earth Command, her eyes focused on the screen, watching the changes unfold. The Alliance's spacecraft were still moving, but communication between them was no longer effective. Their advanced war machines now seemed like useless wooden machines floating in the vastness of space. "The Alliance thought we would be limited by our outdated technologies," Sarah said, her voice resolute. "They were wrong to view us as weak. They cannot understand that we've long surpassed our former limitations." Humanity was not just defending itself. They were now ready to fight on their own terms, not with brute force, but with intelligence and superior technology. The quantum grid was no longer just a cloaking system. It was a tool to alter reality, capable of disrupting all the norms the Alliance had imposed. Each of humanity's spacecraft, research stations, and military bases could now hide or appear at will. Not only that, but humanity's ships could use quantum cloaking to become invisible to all of the Alliance's sensors and technologies. The psychological shift of the Alliance. At the headquarters of the Galactic Alliance, commanders and leaders gathered in an emergency session. After a series of strange events and inexplicable reactions from humanity, they began to realize they had made a grave mistake. Their spacecraft could no longer communicate accurately. Their weapon systems were disabled. The technologies the Alliance had always prided themselves on had become useless in the face of humanity's secret, sophisticated strategies. High Counselor Vex Thor, who had previously led the investigation into humanity, now stood in the council chamber, his transparent eyes showing clear signs of worry. "We cannot continue enduring this impotence," he said, his voice filled with anger. "What has humanity done to us?" Another representative from the Alliance, Counselor Jira, a being with skin as translucent as mist, spoke up. "They've changed the rules of the universe, something we could never predict. Our ships no longer interact with each other. Our weapon systems, they seem to have stopped working." The Alliance could not comprehend what they were facing. Humanity, a species they had underestimated so greatly, had now overturned everything. To the Alliance, this was no longer just a victory of technology, but a warning about humanity's hidden power, humanity's confidence, and the Alliance's failure. While the Alliance continued to struggle with their disabled systems, humanity began to showcase its true strength. Their spacecraft, no longer concealed by cloaking technology, were now moving freely through space without detection. The strategies that the Alliance had dismissed as mistakes on humanity's part had now become sharp blows, shattering every defense the Alliance had in place. Sarah Chen observed it all from Earth Command. She had been waiting for this moment. She knew that the Alliance would not understand what they were up against. "Now they'll understand the value of patience," she said, her gaze unwavering. Humanity had never rushed to revolt. They had played this game with calmness and long-term strategy. Every step they took had been meticulously planned, each decision aimed at the final goal, proving that humanity not only survived on a death world, but had advanced far beyond any other species. The Alliance reacts, the great game of wits. When the Alliance realized that they could no longer control humanity, they began to shift their strategy. Investigations were no longer carried out in the same manner. The Alliance had to face a terrifying truth. They could not defeat humanity using old tactics. At the Alliance Council, a heated debate broke out. Representatives from other advanced civilizations within the Alliance began to criticize each other for their excessive contempt towards humanity. "We were wrong to view them as weak." One representative spoke up. "Now we have to face the consequences." The leaders of the Alliance realized that they not only needed to change how they dealt with humanity, but they also had to accept a painful reality. They were no longer the only power in the universe. Humanity, with its quiet patience, had surpassed them. Humanity reveals its true power. Sarah Chen stood before a large screen in the Earth Command's command room, closely watching every detail on the cosmic map. The Alliance's ships, seemingly useless and unable to reach any targets, had been completely subdued by humanity's quantum grid system. At this moment, there was no doubt. Humanity had proven its capabilities and was ready for a war without firing a single shot. The quantum grid, with its ability to fundamentally alter the structure of space and time, not only paralyzed the Alliance's sensor systems, but also rendered all their weapons useless. The Alliance's ships, instead of reaching their targets, had become mere puppets in a game that humanity had prepared for long ago. Sarah knew that the Alliance's time had run out. Humanity didn't need to rely on military power to win. They had gained control over space with intelligence and technology. The quantum grid not only helped hide humanity, but also allowed them to manipulate space and time in ways the Alliance could not comprehend. They could upend everything the Alliance had built over millennia. But Sarah understood that, even so, the Alliance would never accept such a defeat. They would react. The Alliance discovers their defeat. In the main meeting room of the Galactic Alliance, the atmosphere became heavier than ever before. Representatives from the most advanced civilizations stood before a reality they had never imagined. Humanity, with all that they had ignored and belittled, was now controlling space in ways even the Alliance could not grasp. High Counselor Vex Thor, with his eyes shimmering with anger, stood up. "This can't be. How have we not detected all these activities? Where are our ships? Why can't we deal with them?" Other representatives in the Alliance fell silent, none of them able to provide a convincing answer. It was too late to salvage the situation. The Alliance no longer had the strength to confront humanity. One representative from the Alliance, Counselor Zira, who had previously been one of humanity's harshest critics, now spoke with a tone full of disappointment. "We thought them a weak species, but now they have surpassed us with technology we cannot understand. They don't need war to defeat us. They've won with intelligence." The Alliance had no choice but to accept defeat. The attacks they had planned were immediately neutralized. Their most advanced weapons, their strongest defenses, were now useless. The Alliance, with all its confidence and might, had to face a painful truth. Humanity had surpassed them. Humanity sends its final message. Sarah Chen stood before the screen, looking at the results she had been waiting for. The game was over. Humanity had not just survived, but now they had become an indispensable part of this universe, a force no one could ignore. Chen smiled faintly as she received the notification from Earth Command. "We have completed it. The quantum grid is operating exactly as planned. The Alliance can no longer attack." She raised her hand and issued the official order to all human space stations. "Begin the next phase. Make them understand that we are not a species that can be suppressed." Humanity's spacecraft began to move out into the cleared space, no longer hindered by the Alliance. The quantum grid had opened up a new world where humanity could explore and develop freely without the fear of interference from other galactic powers. Chen knew that a new era was beginning, an era in which humanity was no longer the species living under the shadow of the Alliance. They had mastered space, and now was the time to share their discoveries and technologies with the entire galaxy. The Alliance decides, is reconciliation possible? The Galactic Alliance, realizing that they could not regain control, began to discuss the possibility of reconciliation. They could no longer continue to wage war against humanity, for the more they did, the weaker they made themselves. The fact that humanity could manipulate space and time had proven that they were not a species that could be defeated by force. Reconciliation is the only path forward, one representative from the Alliance finally spoke. We must change our view of humanity. They are not an enemy, but a partner. But can the Alliance change its mindset and accept humanity's presence in the universe? Or will they continue to oppose and attempt to ostracize humanity, despite the reality becoming ever clearer? Humanity builds cooperation with other species. When the Alliance realized that they could not defeat humanity in the battle of technology and intellect, and after a series of consecutive failures, they had no choice but to change their strategy. The leadership of the Galactic Alliance, finally, accepted a painful reality. Humanity was not a weak species, but a powerful galactic force that they had to reckon with. Rather than continue to suppress humanity, the Alliance decided to open the doors and welcome them as a potential partner for the future of the galaxy. Sarah Chen, humanity's representative at the Alliance, stood firm before the Galactic Council, her eyes full of confidence and resolve. She knew that this was the moment for humanity to offer a proposal for cooperation, an opportunity for humanity not only to survive, but to lead the galaxy into a new era where all civilizations could grow and progress simultaneously. We have proven that we are not the opponents you can easily defeat, but we also prove that humanity's true strength lies in our ability to cooperate, not conquer. We do not wish to dominate. We want to help and build a shared future for all species in this universe, Sarah said. Her words made the members of the Galactic Alliance rethink their stance. They had long been focused on protecting the interests of individual species within the Alliance, failing to see each other's existence as an opportunity for collaboration. Now, they began to realize that working with humanity could open a new era for the entire galaxy. Some representatives from civilizations within the Alliance, civilizations that had always maintained their own power and strength, began to change their view of humanity. Humanity could help us advance. One representative from the Elysian species, a prominent civilization within the Alliance, admitted, "They have superior technology, but more importantly, they have the ability to think differently. That is what we lack." Sharing technology and cosmic knowledge, humanity began to enter a new phase, sharing technology widely with other civilizations in the Galactic Alliance. However, they did not just share military technology or inventions that helped humanity survive in space. They shared cosmic technologies that could change the entire galactic economy and ecosystem. These technologies not only helped other civilizations grow physically, but also changed the way they perceived and lived in the universe. The advanced technologies humanity had developed, such as quantum healing, quantum tunneling, and cosmic biological methods, soon became the new standard for civilizations within the Alliance. Quantum healing was not only an advancement in medicine, but also a technology that could heal diseases and improve the quality of life for all species in the galaxy. Moreover, quantum tunneling, a technology that could create space tunnels, allowing movement between planets and star systems to become easier and faster, helped civilizations within the Alliance begin collaborating more effectively. From distant explorations to interstellar trade, everything became easier than ever. The Alliance changes its view on humanity. With humanity's sharing of technology, the civilizations within the Alliance began to gradually change their view of humanity. Species and civilizations that had once considered humanity a primitive and underdeveloped species now realized that humanity could bring renewal and progress to the universe. The Galactic Alliance, which had been consumed by the protection of its own interests for thousands of years, now began to accept that a fundamental shift was necessary. Civilizations within the Alliance realized that they could no longer maintain a worldview where only the strongest stood at the top. Instead, cooperation and collective development would be the only way for the galaxy to reach new heights. Humanity has not only survived in a death world, they have created a new world for themselves, said one representative of the Alliance, Counselor Acrix, a being with jet black fur. We can no longer deny this. humanity has proven that life can thrive even in the harshest conditions. Humanity leads a new era in the universe. Sarah Chen was not just humanity's representative at the Alliance. She was now leading a new era in interspecies relations. No longer were there wars or divisions between species. The universe had become an open space for civilizations to cooperate and develop together. Humanity had proven that true strength does not come from destruction or conquest, but from understanding, cooperation, and shared development. With their advanced technologies and strategic vision, humanity was not only a part of the Alliance, but also the leader in this new cosmic revolution. As the Alliance began to rebuild relationships and expand cooperation with humanity, Fleet Admiral Jackson of humanity stood before the representatives of other civilizations, saying, "We are not just building a future for humanity, but for all those who wish to live in peace and grow together." The Alliance faces defeat. Although the Galactic Alliance had begun to accept cooperation and share technology with humanity, they still could not fully overcome the feeling of failure. Despite clearly seeing the benefits that humanity brought, the shift in the Alliance's mindset was not easy. Civilizations that had once dominated the galaxy now had to accept a harsh reality. Humanity, with all its ingenuity and intellect, had surpassed them and was no longer a species that could be easily controlled. High Counselor Vex Thor, though he had changed his view of humanity, could not shake the feeling of dissatisfaction. "We misjudged humanity from the start," he admitted during a council meeting of the Alliance. "We considered them a weak species, but in reality, they have proven they can far outpace us." Other representatives in the Alliance, though no one spoke it aloud, also felt a painful realization. A civilization that had developed for thousands of years, full of confidence and pride, now had to admit that they had been outpaced by a small species like humanity in their own game. Peace negotiations and new challenges. Nevertheless, the Alliance could no longer live in the past. After realizing that war and division were not paths to progress, they began to think about a change in their operations. The Alliance began organizing negotiations with humanity, but this time, not to demand humanity's obedience as they had before. They began to understand that only true cooperation could make the universe stronger. In an important meeting at the Galactic Alliance, Sarah Chen stood up, looking directly at the representatives of the Alliance. "We do not just want to cooperate for humanity's benefit. We want to cooperate for the benefit of the entire universe. This is an opportunity for civilizations to develop together, share knowledge and technology, and build a sustainable future for all species." A representative from the Zeroth civilization, a species with the ability to control energy, spoke up. "The Alliance can no longer live in the shadows of the past. We have long known only war and domination. Now is the time for us to change." The negotiations lasted for several days, with each side presenting their own demands and conditions. However, in the end, the Alliance agreed to sign a peace treaty with humanity, opening a new era for the entire galaxy. Despite this, challenges still remained. The Alliance, although accepting humanity, still had to face difficulties in changing the power structure and the principles that had existed for thousands of years. Humanity confidently moves toward the future. After the agreement was signed, Sarah Chen stood outside the Alliance's meeting room, filled with a sense of pride. Humanity had achieved the unimaginable, a position in the Alliance not as subjugated beings, but as true partners, equal to other civilizations. But she also knew that the road ahead would not be easy. "What we do today is not only for humanity, but for all species in the universe," Sarah Chen said to Fleet Admiral Jackson, who stood beside her. "This is the first step toward creating a future where cooperation, rather than conflict, will guide us." The universe was no longer a place full of insurmountable boundaries, but an open space where humanity not only survived, but also led the change. The technologies humanity had developed were now not just for them, but for all civilizations within the Alliance. The quantum grid, quantum healing, and quantum tunneling had now become the foundation for all scientific and medical advances throughout the universe. The Galactic Alliance and a new era? Step by step, the Alliance began expanding collaborative projects with humanity. Joint research programs on space technology, sustainable development, and even peace initiatives between species were launched. While there were still doubts within some layers of the Alliance's leadership, they could not deny that humanity was changing the universe in ways no one had anticipated. We can no longer live in division and conflict. Another representative of the Alliance, Counselor Atreus, spoke. We need to start over, to collaborate with humanity and build a shared future. Sarah Chen looked at the representatives of the Alliance, her gaze full of confidence. We can build a new era, where the progress of one civilization does not come at the expense of another. Cooperation will take us further, and we will never stop moving forward. Peace and cooperation within the Alliance. 1 month after the peace treaty between humanity and the Galactic Alliance was signed, the changes in the universe became clearer than ever. Humanity's spacecraft no longer had to hide their presence, and the other species within the Alliance began to engage in cooperation projects led by humanity. Sarah Chen witnessed this transformation from her position at Earth Command. She was not only representing humanity, but also leading a new era of peace and cooperation. Slowly, she saw the Alliance transition from a power-driven, divided organization into a collaborative one where every species had the opportunity to grow and contribute. Humanity was not only bringing technology, but also sharing knowledge on how to maintain peace across the universe. The species within the Alliance, from ancient civilizations to newly encountered ones, began to realize that sustainable development could not be achieved through military strength but through true cooperation. And in this process, humanity became the leader. A new era of science and technology. One of the greatest achievements humanity brought to the Alliance was quantum tunneling, a technology that allowed for rapid movement across space without relying on traditional space routes. This technology not only made travel between planets and star systems easier, but it also opened opportunities for previously isolated civilizations to connect and grow. But that wasn't all. Humanity also shared advances in medicine. Quantum healing helped cure diseases that even the most advanced civilizations within the Alliance had been unable to treat. This technology didn't just serve humanity. It helped millions of species within the Alliance live longer and healthier lives. This is not just the progress of one species. This is the progress of the entire universe. Sarah Chen said during a plenary session of the Alliance. We've proven that true strength comes from understanding and sharing, not from conquest or violence. Challenges still remain. However, not everything went smoothly. Some civilizations within the Alliance still harbored doubts and unease about such rapid change. A few civilizations could not easily accept that power would no longer rest solely in the hands of the most powerful forces. Counselor Atreus of the Alliance, who had long opposed humanity, still couldn't easily change his mindset. Can we really trust what humanity offers? Atreus asked during a meeting. They may have changed us, but can they change themselves? We've endured too many losses to simply accept this change. Sarah Chen understood this resistance. She knew that, while humanity had achieved remarkable milestones, changing the mindset of long-established civilizations within the Alliance would be a slow and challenging process. But she also knew that this was the only opportunity to build a strong future for this universe. We can't change everything overnight, Sarah replied during the meeting, but we can prove that this change will benefit all species, and once they see that, resistance will fade. Humanity takes the lead. With the Alliance gradually accepting these changes, humanity began to take the lead in intergalactic research projects and scientific collaboration. The quantum grid was no longer just a tool for cloaking or defense. It became the foundation for communication systems and the exploration of new spaces. This network connected all planets and star systems, creating a powerful bond between all species within the Alliance. Alongside this, humanity also opened quantum engineering training centers in several star systems within the Alliance, helping other civilizations learn and apply new technologies in their respective fields. This not only helped them continue to develop, but also created a shared intellectual network between the civilizations. We are not leading because of our technology, but because we understand that true strength lies in helping and supporting others to progress. Sarah Chen said in an important speech before the Alliance representatives, "This is the time for us to build a peaceful and prosperous universe together." The future of humanity and the Alliance. The species within the Alliance, despite initial resistance or concern, now gradually recognized that cooperation with humanity was not a concession but an opportunity for the entire universe to advance. Ancient civilizations, while still holding on to their own legacies and traditions, began participating in larger intergalactic projects, from scientific research to solving ecological problems. Humanity, once viewed with disdain and seen as weak, had now become an inspiration for all the civilizations within the Alliance. Not through military power or conquest, but through intellect, patience, and determination, humanity had led the universe into a new era.